Welcome back to Sapiens Daily Grind, where surviving your inbox is tough, but trust me, dodging saber-toothed cats in your birthday suit was way worse. Let's time travel back to when Homo Sapiens were just figuring out fire and accidentally setting their eyebrows on it. The sky glows a tender mauve as the prehistoric sun nudges over the horizon. Inside your stone bungalow, yes, it has charming Aeneas' countertops and a tasteful mammoth I'd throw. Your eyes blink open. You stretch, yawn, and immediately regret it. Your mouth feels like it hosted a dust storm overnight. Morning breath, thick enough to stun a beetle mid-flight, meets the rising scent of roasted something wafting from the hearth. Your mate, Gura, already up and humming a gravelly tune, flips slabs of mammoth jerky on a sizzling basalt griddle. You sit up, tongue peeling from the roof of your mouth like ancient bark, and groan. Breakfast is the same as yesterday, and the day before. It always tastes like someone salted a doormat and dared you to eat it. Still, tradition is tradition. Outside, Poco the adolescent trundles past with a pterodactyl tethered to a vine leash. That's your ride to the quarry, and it's been cranky since shedding season began. You make your way to the communal washstone, where the clan cues to splash cold water and mutter pleasantries. One neighbor casually picks beetle legs from between his molars with a feather shaft, which you find simultaneously ingenious and deeply upsetting. You reach for the standard-issue mouth pebble, a smooth, thumb-sized stone meant to grind away the rot, or so the elders claim. You start chewing. It's not helping now. You must understand. Dental hygiene, in this age of pointy everything, is less a routine and more a game of chance. There's no mint rinse, no soft bristled brush, no floss. There's a lot of bark, twigs, occasionally a nice leaf. If you're lucky, the clan dentist, who is also the local weaver and occasional snake milker, claims that chewing pine needles will refresh the soul and maybe the tongue. But the last time you tried that, your gums puffed up like a puffball mushroom in spring. Historians still argue whether pine was genuinely antiseptic or just made your mouth too numb to complain. You head inside to tackle breakfast. The jerky crunches like gravel. A shard lodges itself directly between two molars, and you make a sound somewhere between a whimper and a war cry. Gora pats your shoulder in solidarity. She's had a twig stuck since solstice. Now comes the real problem. The clan meeting is today. It's your turn to speak on behalf of your hunting party, and nobody listens to a man with gristle poking from his grin. You eye the tools scattered around the kitchen. A charred stick, a flattened bone, a curious shard of obsidian shaped like a penguin. None are ideal, but desperate times, you go with the charred stick. You gently press it between your teeth, wiggling and twisting with surgical focus. A small pop. Success. But also splinters. A few little wooden invaders now embedded in your gums. You yelp. Gura chuckles. Outside, the village starts to stir. Lava-powered carts creak over cobbled paths. Kids chase a rolling ammonite shell. The smell of fermented root tea wafts from the elder's hut. But all you can think about is your aching mouth. You trudge to the hearth and hold another stick in the embers. Maybe if you burn it just right, the edges will smooth. Maybe it'll slide between teeth like, well, something better than jerky. This is how it begins. Not with invention, but with irritation. A bit of food that refuses to be swallowed. A splinter that demands attention. Your fingers blackened with soot. Your breath like an expired mammoth. One little burnt stick, casually sharpened by fire and desperation, and the tiniest inkling begins to smolder in your mind. Could this be a solution? Could cleanliness be achieved? On purpose. Outside, your neighbor sneezes into a fern and waves at you cheerfully. You nod, grin, gristle-free now, and feel something you haven't felt in weeks. Minty pride. You can't stop fiddling with the stick. By now it's cooled, the tip slightly charred, and oddly soothing as you run it along the edge of a molar. There's a satisfaction in its precision, like digging the perfect pit trap or choosing just the right boulder for a nap. Gora notices, and with a tilt of her heavy brow ridge, she gestures to try it. You pass it along. She pokes once between her incisors, tilts her head, and lets out a pleased grunt that needs no translation. This stick is good. Too good. Now it's a family activity. But not all materials are equal. That becomes clear after Poco returns from the pond, proudly holding a porcupine quill and shouting, "Look what yarn dared me to stick in my teeth." It ends with a minor puncture, a tetanus scare, though no one knows what tetanus is yet, and a solemn vow to never mix wild animals with oral care again. You're not the only one experimenting. Word spreads. Soon, Onga from the sandstone hut down the trails, chewing on dried reeds, claiming they double as breath fresheners and mood enhancers. Mostly they just taste like swamp. Hijuta, ever the innovator, offers bark scrapings, shredded from a birch tree known to make the goat sneeze. You try it. It leaves your mouth feeling like you've gargled wood chips dipped in regret. Historians still argue whether Homo sapiens intentionally sought out antibacterial plants, or whether they simply gnawed whatever wasn't actively trying to kill them. Either way, the dental experimentation period is underway. The clan's children are the true pioneers. One afternoon, you find them staging a tooth trial, each one presenting their chosen tool in a show-and-tell format. One girl waves a sliver of bone, sharpened to a point and wrapped in grass. "Mine smells like meat," she proclaims proudly. Another boasts a pebble glued to a vine. You chew and then floss. You watch, equal parts horrified and fascinated. Kids, it seems, are willing to try anything that fits between their teeth. And then there's the minty moss incident. Gora's cousin, who once tried to domesticate a saber-tooth, swears he found nature's own breath balm growing near the creek. It smells promising, so you give it a go. Within moments, your tongue tingles like it's been kissed by lightning, and you'll find yourself singing involuntarily in a high-pitched tone never before achieved by man or bird. The kids applaud. You recover. Barely. In the background of all this chaos, the clan elders remain unconvinced. Their philosophy, if your teeth fall out, that's just your soul's way of making room for quieter chewing. Besides, their preferred method of post-meal maintenance is gargling warm ash water and cackling ominously. Scares the decay away, one mutters. Still, momentum grows. You start noticing polished sticks left near fire pits, each whittled with more intention. Some have carved notches, others are gently curved. Yuta even adds a decorative bead to hers, claiming it enhances performance. It doesn't, but she now holds the title of oral artist, and wears it with pride. One night, around the campfire, a spirited debate erupts. Birch versus bone, burnt wood versus plain, reeds versus rage, bones too brittle, grumbles Darnek. The toothless, who may not be the best judge. Bark splinters, retorts Onga, shaking a hand still sore from last week's incident. Maybe it's not what you chew with. You offer, but how it makes you feel afterward. Silence. A long, contemplative pause, broken only by the whoosh of a nearby lava vent. Then, a slow nod from an elder. That's the closest thing to a clan consensus you've ever witnessed. It's not just about removing food anymore. It's about rituals. Morning cleanses. Post-hunt refreshes. A polite poke during awkward silences. Someone even carves a rack to organize the clan's chewers, 20 sticks proudly standing like a prehistoric toothbrush display. Historians will later try to label this as the dawn of personal hygiene. They'll discover toothpick grooves in ancient molars and argue whether these were intentional or accidental. They'll write entire papers on early dental strategies in nomadic societies while sipping oat lattes in ergonomic chairs. But for now, it's just you, your family, and a growing realization this might actually matter. Of course, the animals remain unimpressed. Your ride, a particularly salty pterodactyl named Vrick, snatches one of your prize sticks mid-hover and attempts to nest with it. You shout, flail, fall backward into a barrel of fermented moss water, and become the village's new chew stick cautionary tale. They will laugh for weeks. So will you. Eventually. But you dry off, reclaim your stick, and inspect the slight bend near the tip. That imperfection. It slides just perfectly along your back molars. You're squatting near the fire pit, charring the end of another stick, when Grandpa Old ambles over limping slightly from that infamous badger wrestling incident of last winter. He doesn't say much. Never has. But he watches. You nod respectfully, offering him your newest creation, a willow twig with a charred smoothed point and a faint whiff of minty moss. He snorts, waves it away, and brandishes his own tool, a burnt stick, blackened from tip to hilt, shaped more like a tiny club than anything hygienic. With a grunt, he jams it between his molars. Then there's a crack. Not a stick crack, a tooth crack. Everyone freezes. Grandpa Old blinks once, twice, and then slowly spits something out into the dirt. Abolar, ancient and yellowed, still clinging to a stubborn thread of mammoth meat. The clan gasps. Little Mika bursts into tears. Someone drops a squash, and then Old laughs. A low, dry, wheezy chuckle, like a lizard clearing its throat. He pokes at the empty socket with his splintered stick and mumbles something about finally loosening that cursed thing. A new household legend is born. But what really changes everything is what happens after Ord, always the quiet one, starts getting a little animated. His mouth feels better. The throbbing ache in his jaw, gone. His words, clearer, if still mostly about badgers. He sharpens his broken stick and starts passing it around, showing off the angle he used, proudly referencing the snap like it's a moment of cosmic importance. Soon, the other elders grow curious. They have spent decades tolerating bad breath and sore gums, chalking it up to aging and mammoth-based diets. But now they see Old whittling a new stick every morning, soaking it in water overnight, and gently brushing it over his teeth like he's polishing a prized obsidian idol. Historians still argue whether Old's broken tooth was a true catalyst or simply a fortunate accident in a culture finally ready to chew toward the future. Either way, the concept of intentional oral maintenance begins to take hold. You watch the transformation unfold slowly. Elders start requesting bark from softer trees. One even commissions a gatherer to bring back specific branches with pleasant flecks. Decorative holders emerge: shells, horn cups, even the occasional dinosaur vertebra, hollowed and polished to store a clone's finest sticks. Old becomes a local icon, not just for his missing tooth, but for his commitment. He spends afternoons whittling new tools with the patience of a man who knows how few mammoths are left to wrestle. Kids line up to receive their first chew stick from him. He blesses each with a solemn nod and a spritz of hot spring water to honor his new status. The family decides to throw a small feast, the centerpiece. Jerky so soft it practically apologizes as it's chewed. But dessert, yes. They call it dessert, though it's just caramelized root paste is sticky enough to glue two jaws together. That night, Old unveils a special prototype, a dual-ended stick, one side carved flat, the other rounded to a dull point, for poking and scraping. He explains, his voice wheezy with excitement. It's, revolutionary. The reactions are mixed. Some see genius, others see over-engineering. Still, the prototype becomes the talk of the quarry. Gura, ever the realist, tests it and nods. Good for after bonfire, she declares, referencing the sticky soot cakes traditionally eaten during the solstice. You try it, and your tongue genuinely feels relieved. Of course, not all feedback is positive. Darnak the skeptic scoffs. What next? A dinosaur to brush for you. He laughs alone. Later that week, he's seen quietly rubbing a pine twig on his gums. Cultural shifts are subtle at first. More people start carrying chew sticks behind their ears. Some braid them into their hair for easy access. A few wear them as necklaces, like talismans of cleanliness. Fashion meets function in an utterly prehistoric way. You even hear rumors of a rival tribe across the river developing their own version. A hollow reed is said to whistle when chewed, offering dental care and entertainment in one. That's just showing off. Gora mutters, unimpressed. Still, experimentation continues. Grandpa Old's wisdom begins circulating in campfire tales. He's become more than a man. He's become the Tooth Whisperer. You watch the next generation embrace his legacy. Even Poco, who once thought licking a shiny rock counted as hygiene, now polishes his evening stick before bed. And somehow, in this modest act of poking and prodding at meat-stained molars, a new respect for self-care takes root, one that blends ritual, invention, and just a touch of elder showmanship. Your clan is changing, not all at once, not loudly, but with every toothpick sharpened by hand and smoothed in ash. The future is being carved splinter by splinter. By now, the stick isn't just a stick. It's got a name. Or three. Some call it the pick poker. Others go with mouth spear. The kids, ever dramatic, dub it the gristle slayer. But whatever the name, the toothpick has officially gone tribal. And with that fame comes friction. The first formal conflict. Birch versus bone. Gura, a staunch birch loyalist, argues its gentle texture and natural oils make it perfect for sensitive teeth, especially after a hearty stew. Meanwhile, Yuta insists that smooth bone offers superior precision and a satisfying click when tapped against a tooth. These debates rage across fire pits, gathering circles, and one particularly awkward wedding feast, where the bride's family insisted on pine sticks for freshness, while the groom's family shouted over that calcium content. And now, there's status. You notice it in the way that people display their sticks. No longer shoved in loincloth loops or tucked behind ears. They're sheathed in decorated pouches, holstered like weapons, even slipped into tiny woven wristbands. One hunter commissions a saber-toothed fang sheath, Another insists on ivory handles. Darnak, yes. That Darnak begins giving his sticks names Gnasher, Splinterella, and Mollerine. He insists it helps with accuracy. It does not. Meanwhile, a distant cousin returns from a trading expedition and brings gossip of an obsidian-polished toothpick said to reflect the soul of the chewer, or just your nose hairs. Someone mumbles. You chuckle, but the obsession grows. There's even an official clan demonstration one evening. 5 participants chewing dried boar ribs while simultaneously testing different pick styles. The crowd roars for double twist technique, while straight scrape method gets booed for being boring. Somewhere in the back, a small cave painting artist sketches the entire event onto a rock wall. Art meets molars. Historians will one day marvel at the standardization of tools within emerging oral care customs. But back in your very practical, very spit-covered reality, the story continues around the communal cookfire. Do you sharpen both ends? Asks Onga, twiddling a walnut-stained stick. No, says Utah. Only monsters do. Laughter. But also a pause. Because last week, someone did. They paid the price with a surprise nose poke and a dramatic fall into the fermented yam barrel. A cautionary tale, now immortalized in song. Culture begins to shift in ways that, even to you, feel bizarrely modern. Mate selection now involves subtle glances at each other's toothpick cases. A well-carved stick. Charming. One with bark flaking off. Questionable hygiene. Grandpa Old, still beaming toothlessly, becomes the de facto officiant for these unions, offering a ceremonial first floss twig as a blessing. And beauty standards change too. Clean teeth, once a rarity, become aspirational. A new trend takes root rubbing ash and crushed minty moss to whiten the enamel. Gura starts a side hustle mixing clay paste and calling it smile mud. She sells out by moonrise. You can't help but marvel. A humble piece of burnt wood, once used to dig out the occasional chunk of mammoth, now carries social weight. Tools become fashion. Function becomes art. You personally carve your own upgrade, a curved cherrywood pick with notches for grip. Its smell is faintly sweet, slides comfortably between teeth, and earns 2 nods and a respectful grunt from Elodie. High praise indeed. Still, challenges arise. Some members of the clan, emboldened by stick success, start chewing absolutely everything. Twigs, shells, dried fungus. Someone tries coral, which ends poorly and with a trip to the shaman. There's a brief trend involving fossilized fish bones, stylish but prone to sudden shattering. A mini-epidemic of chipped molars follows. The elders issue a formal warning, using the most serious language known to the clan. Stop it! Meanwhile, there's now tribal etiquette. Never share your toothpick. Always burn the ends before reuse. Don't clean your stick on someone else's fur cloak. This one had to be formally added after an unfortunate confrontation involving Gura's aunt and a very sharp pine sliver. Trade routes even emerge. You hear whispers of reed sticks with hollow cores being passed between river clans. Lightweight, chewable, and, if angled right, they whistle. Children love them. Adults do not. In quieter moments, you sit with Gura by the fire. She leans against your shoulder, stick gently tracing her teeth. You mimic her, and together you sit clean mouths, full bellies, sort of feet. The wind whistles through the open window of rock, carrying faint echoes of a flute or maybe just a hollow stick kid blowing into it again. You sigh. What started as a desperate jab at a meat-flecked molar has become a symbol of care, creativity, and community. You don't say this aloud, way too sappy for clan talk, but you feel it. A kind of pride. A shared evolution. Tomorrow, there will be new experiments. Someone will slam palm fronds off for a better tooth flex. Another will show off a pick-carved poem. But for tonight, you rest stick by your side. Teeth clean, spirit oddly content. You wake just before dawn to the sound of something whistling through the camp, faint, rhythmic, almost melodic. For a dreamy moment, you think it's a bird, but then you hear a familiar giggle. Poco and the other cave kids are at it again, blowing through their hollow sticks like prehistoric piccolos, marching in single file past the fire pit. You stretch and yawn, running your tongue across your teeth. Clean, smooth, sweet sap aftertaste. It's becoming a new kind of comfort. This waking up without the grit of yesterday's mammoth. You glance over and see Gura still asleep, clutching her cherrywood pick like a bedtime charm. Slipping outside, you take in the village stone homes, bathed in the blue hush of early light, smoke curling from a few early cook fires. And here and there, folks already tending their teeth as they stretch. It's quiet, peaceful, and somehow more refined than it used to be. Cleaner. Even if everyone still wears dinosaur leather and fights giant birds for breakfast. Down by the waterhole, you spot Grandpa Old sitting on his usual log throne, carving sticks with patient rhythm. He's humming a chant he probably made up, a tune that sounds like wheezy approval. Beside him stands a row of completed picks long, short, curved, notched, even one shaped like a fish. You squat beside him, pick up a stick, and start whittling. He glances at you with a proud grunt and returns to his work. Later that morning, the clan gathers for a small festival. No occasion, just a shared desire to show off their latest dental technology. Yuta performs a demonstration involving rapid-fire flossing with a double-reed scraper. Anga unveils a dual-action pick that clicks when pressed. It does nothing else, but the sound is delightful. Gura reads a poem she carved into a bone stick using a heated flint. Each stanza more dramatic than the last. It ends with a mic drop moment. And so I say to Tooth and Jaw, chew gently now and pick with awe. Tears are shed. Someone sets up a trading post. 1 stick equals 1 polished beetle shell. Obsidian picks fetch 3. You manage to swap your notched ashwood piece for a pouch of honey-roasted roots and a chunk of amber with a bug inside. Bargain. By sundown, the fire is roaring, and the clan begins its traditional chewer's chant, banging sticks together in a surprisingly rhythmic beat. It's part celebration, part competition who has the sturdiest, the shiniest, the least splinter-prone pick. Danak, ever dramatic, attempts a stunt involving synchronized chewing and stick juggling. It ends with him choking slightly on a toasted tuber and falling into a drum. Applause erupts. Classic Darnak. Amid all this joy, a quiet realization sets in. Something has changed in your people. Sure, they still hunt, gather, and avoid being stepped on by the occasional wandering stegosaurus. But now, there's self-care, there's craft, there's style. It's not just about the stick anymore. It's what the stick represents. Historians will someday scratch their heads trying to determine the exact moment Homo sapiens took a leap toward modernity. Was it fire? Language? Art? Maybe? But you'll always know it was the day someone maybe Grandpa or maybe Gura looked at a burnt twig and thought, what if I stuck this between my teeth? And from that tiny spark of absurd, inspired curiosity, civilization sharpened its edge. And now, as the last embers of the clan's fire settle into a slow, pulsing glow, you breathe deeply. The air is warm, spiced with moss and char, the sounds of laughter fading to sleepy hums beneath the stars. Somewhere nearby, a pterodactyl flaps once and settles in for the night. You lie back on your bed of soft reeds and woven fur, fingers lightly brushing the carved toothpick still tucked behind your ear. There's a calm in your chest, gentle, grounding, a sense that even in a world filled with giant beasts, unpredictable weather, and chewing accidents, small joys endure. The sky above you stretches wide and velvety, the moon glinting like a polished shell. You let your breath slow. I say a name then out. The worries of your prehistoric day splinters. Burnt jerky? Competing stick designs melt into background hums, soft and slow. You feel safe. Your teeth are clean. Your story, for now, is told. So rest easy. Dear Sapiens, you've come far from fire and flint to friendship and floss. Let the stars turn above you. Let the wind carry dreams on its ancient breath. And let yourself float into that timeless sleep where even mammoths tiptoe and even toothpicks glow.